Hey everybody, welcome back. Dr. Jaws here, and tonight we are taking a trip to Hawaii, learning about Hawaiian sharks. This is a kind of a new concept that was suggested by one of our viewers, is to take a look at a region and explore the biodiversity of that region. And Hawaii is a wonderful first area to pick, actually, just because it's not only a beautiful and biodiverse place for sharks, but also there is a very strong cultural significance of sharks in Hawaii. There's a lot of deeper cultural ties with the multiple species of sharks that occur in Hawaiian waters that will kind of offer a different, new, and interesting lens into how we approach them. So it's not just like the science or some of the diving notes, and diving is beautiful in Hawaii, but also just more of like the deeper meanings or the cultural significance of sharks in these waters. So I think before we get started, it might be good to pull up ecoregions, and I have a lot of different like cool sources in terms of like diving or biology, as well as like biodiversity of the species, and a little bit of footage too. But before we get started, let's kind of define the ecoregions of Hawaii. So let's do marine ecoregions of the world. Okay, we'll do data basin because, oh, not AI mode. Hold on. Getting out of here. I think, so the marine ecoregions of the world map, I think it's currently stored on Databasin now. But this, yeah, there we go. So this is a really good starting point in terms of like approaching the ocean and kind of subdividing it into smaller regions with characteristic habitats, ecosystems, food chains, food webs, just kind of like predictable patterns in terms of weather, currents, temperature. And unfortunately, this doesn't seem to be loading. Let's try one more time. There we go. Alright, here we go. So, it looks like, if I'm seeing that correctly, Hawaii is actually just one ecoregion. Interesting. So, and that's actually really exciting. I was kind of curious if it would be split into multiples, but it looks like the Hawaiian Islands are just one ecoregion and just called Hawaii, part of the Eastern Indo-Pacific marine realm. Hawaii is also so distinct that it is its own province. So kind of how the ecoregions work is you can split the entire global ocean into 12 realms. So this one is the Eastern Indo-Pacific. Within the realms, you can further split it down into provinces, and within the provinces, you can split it down to ecoregions. So Hawaii is both a province and an ecoregion, just because the way it these waters, like how they function in terms of being seamounts, a lot of volcanic activity shaping the geology of the area. Being islands surrounded by deep water allows for a lot of really cool deep water species to come closer than they typically would if there was a broad continental shelf. So it's a pretty interesting area, pretty interesting habitat for sharks overall. There should be marine ecoregions in North America. Probably we'll have a deeper dive into Hawaii, so let's take a look at that really quick before we dive into the sharks. There we go. Perfect, and then I'm just going to try to find Hawaii. This is a really great guide, and I believe this was created by the EPA, if I'm not mistaken. But it takes a look at North America and divides it into its own sort of definition of ecoregions. It's largely pretty accurate. There are some things I disagree with a little bit in terms of like how it classifies certain places, but for the most part, it does a pretty good job. So here we go. The Hawaiian archipelago. And it kind of subdivides it into a couple subregions too. So we have the main Hawaiian Islands, reefs and banks, the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, banks and seamounts, and then the Hawaiian Islands, abyssal plain. So, the Hawaiian archipelago, one of the most geographically isolated island systems in the world, is composed of 8 main volcanic oceanic islands, 124 smaller islands, atolls, banks, and numerous seamounts. Due to this isolation, the reef fauna of the archipelago are less diverse than other reefs, especially those elsewhere in the Indo-West Pacific Ocean. This relatively low faunal diversity, however, contrasts with unusually high endemism among the reef species, so meaning that there's a lot of unique animals that live in the Hawaiian archipelago, which is really cool. In addition, the uninhabited northwestern Hawaiian Islands are some of the most pristine coral reef ecosystems worldwide. They are home to the endangered Hawaiian monk seal, some of the largest and most important seabird colonies in the world, and the North America's largest nesting ground for the green sea turtle. The region is also a major breeding, calving, and nursery area for the humpback whale. So this is actually particularly famous. I think there's multiple nature documentaries that have followed Hawaiian humpback whales on their migration. They go to Hawaiian waters, I think, to give birth, and then they go back up to temperate waters to feed. On the inhabited main Hawaiian Islands, many watersheds and nearshore areas have been significantly modified. Their nearshore fish stocks are thought to have declined 80% in the last century, and because of their high endemism, invasive species are of particular concern. Despite impacts from ocean outfalls, urban growth, and coastal development, coral ecosystems in these islands range from fair to excellent condition, and water quality in most areas is good. The Hawaiian archipelago stretches 2,450 kilometers from the Big Island of Hawaii, northwest of Kura Atoll. Physical and oceanographic setting. Hey Tim, welcome back. Good to see you. This is a pretty fun stream to join tonight. These are Hawaiian sharks, so we're just kind of like learning more about the Hawaiian archipelago to start with, and then we'll dive into the actual species, which is I'm really excited for this. And I think Howard may have suggested a regional stream last week. I forget if it was I think it was Howard or Roy suggested that we kind of take a look at different parts of the world and kind of see how it functions as a ecosystem. So I'm excited to dive into Hawaii tonight and learn more about Hawaiian sharks, and not just like their science and diving tips, but also culture. But I hope you had a really good weekend. The weather is gorgeous here in Virginia. It is definitely peak summer. Shark-wise, we have a lot of our tropical species are back in the area. So we have bull sharks and scalloped hammerhead sharks here, as well as Atlantic sharpnose sharks. So these guys are fully migrated back up here, which is pretty fun. So excited to embrace the summer tropical diversity here, because a lot of our summer sharks come from Florida. So it's a pretty fun time of year, and it's actually the peak biodiversity here. So, but the weather was just beautiful over the weekend, so it's going to be a fun summer. But physical and oceanographic setting for Hawaii. The Hawaiian archipelago consists of a string of volcanic islands formed by the northwest movement of the Pacific tectonic plate over the stationary Hawaiian hotspot. The 8 main Hawaiian islands in the southwestern range in age from 1 to 7 million years and are characterized by high volcanic mountains and narrow fringing reefs. So, if I'm not mistaken, that's actually not that old. So that's Pleistocene to Miocene. So what's actually really cool about that is Hawaii kind of began to form around the time of Megalodon, like the time like when Megalodon started to see its twilight, which is so interesting. Oh, full disclosure, part of my brain will be focused on trying to make a shark wearing Hawaiian shirt joke. Yes, I mean I myself am doing that right now. So I literally have only just one Hawaiian shirt, and I really don't know where I got this from, but it's one of my favorite shirts. I don't know if it's the best thing that I have, but I enjoy it. So, but let's see. The older northwestern Hawaiian Islands have undergone submergence of only Necker, Nihoa, and Garner pinnacles, still containing exposed volcanic material. The rest of the chain is composed of coral atolls, small sand islands, and submerged banks. The chain continues as the submerged Emperor seamounts northwest of Kura Atoll, and northernmost atoll in the world. The northern extent of the North Equatorial Current is a major oceanic current affecting the islands, branching along the Hawaiian Ridge into a North Hawaiian Ridge current and gyres in the lee of the islands. So, biological setting. The isolation of the Hawaiian Islands has resulted in unusually high endemism among the reef fauna. Over 25% of Hawaiian reef animals are endemic to the region, so that's really high, actually. It's so exciting to think that there's fishes in Hawaii that can be found, and other animals, like animals in Hawaii that can be found nowhere else in the world. In addition, although the clear oceanic waters are low in primary productivity, they do provide the environmental conditions needed for rather rich nearshore coral reef ecosystems. There are approximately 60 species of stony corals and more than 100 sponge species, 1,071 marine mollusk species, 884 crustacean species, and 557 species of reef and shore fishes in the archipelago. The Hawaiian Islands region is also a major breeding, calving, nursery area for the humpback whale. The uninhabited northwestern Hawaiian Islands include habitats and species absent in the main Hawaiian Islands. Because their isolation and the limited fishing effort upon them, average fish biomass is more than 260% greater than the main Hawaiian Islands. Apex predators such as jacks and sharks predominate, comprising 54% of biomass in the northwest compared to only 3% in the main Hawaiian Islands. So it's actually really fascinating and really alarming how much human impact has. So with humans present, there's only 3% of the biomass in the main Hawaiian Islands are sharks and top predators. But without humans in the northwest Hawaiian Islands, 54% of the top predators are sharks. It's wild. Over 90% of the threatened green sea turtles in Hawaii were born at French frigate shoals, found in northwestern Hawaiian Islands. These islands are also home to the major remaining breeding populations of the endangered Hawaiian monk seal. The deepwater southeast Hancock seamount had a unique and productive fish fauna that was overfished in the early 1970s is yet to recover. So here's a picture of a humpback whale and a calf. So Hawaii again being a very important breeding ground for humpback whales. And then really sweet picture of a monk seal. So really beautiful animal that's unique to. It's actually really so cool to see a seal in a tropical setting. We used to have a Caribbean monk seal, and I don't think that one of our latest streams we're talking about how white sharks used to prey upon the Caribbean monk seal, and that went extinct unfortunately, and that actually kind of drove white sharks away from the Caribbean. So. The main Hawaiian island supports a population of 1.2 million people, over 70% of which reside on the island of Oahu. Hawaii's nearshore reefs annually contribute nearly $1 billion in gross revenues to the state's economy. In addition to the resident population, nearly 7 million tourists visit the islands each year, making tourism the largest industry, much of it dependent upon the marine ecosystems. Anthropogenic stresses of greatest concern on the region's reefs are coastal development and runoff, pollution, recreational overuse, damage from ship groundings, alien species, overfishing, damaging fishing practices, and overharvesting of ornamental reef species. Many watersheds and nearshore areas in the main Hawaiian Islands have been significantly modified. Approximately 57% of Hawaii's estuarine area is impaired by some form of pollution or habitat degradation, whereas only 2% of its coastal shoreline is impaired. Because of the high endemism of the islands, there are special concerns about the introduction of invasive alien species. The unique patch reef habitats in the archipelago's largest protected embayment, Kaneohe Bay, have been overgrown by 2 introduced marine algal species. Moreover, the region's nearshore fishery stocks are thought to have declined 80% in the 1900s. The commercially most important fishery species are pelagic tunas, but the reef provides diverse, culturally and recreationally important fisheries. The northwestern Hawaiian Islands are mostly uninhabited, and fishing and other resource extraction is currently limited to a small bottom fish fishery. Here, the greatest anthropogenic impact is from derelict fishing gear, mostly discarded trawl nets. These islands, atolls, and banks are protected in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands Coral Reef Ecosystem Reserve, the Hawaiian and Pacific Isles Wildlife Refuge, as well as the Midway Atoll National Wildlife Refuge. So, I'm going to actually copy and paste that. We'll maybe take a look at the reserve later because that's a pretty significant area. Definitely want to dive into the sharks first. So this is a picture of some of the incredible biodiversity with amberjacks hunting around a school of scad. And that's a pretty massive school too, in crystal clear water. So really, really beautiful. And I'm gonna post this in the chat. This guide is really exciting. Yeah. One can never go off Hawaiian shirts. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I agree. It's a good vibe. It's a good. One thing I love about it is just like it's very Jurassic Parky. Because I think a couple characters in Jurassic Park. And I'm pretty sure it's Dennis from the first movie. I think he has a Hawaiian shirt. But Jurassic Park is filmed in Hawaii, so the first one is very prominently the best shots in the movie are in Hawaii, which is so cool. So. But anyway, before we continue, this guide, which covers ecoregions of North America, it also has these cool little fact sheets that kind of highlight some interesting little biological notes. So major community types and subtypes are fringing coral reefs, atolls, coral banks, seamounts, and open ocean pelagic systems. Endemics, let's see... only marine mammal that's endemic is Hawaiian monk seal. Species at risk are the Hawaiian monk seal, Hawaiian dark rump petrel, band rump store petrel, Newell shearwaters, short-tailed albatross, green hawksbill and leatherback sea turtles, humpback whale, Hawaiian goby, the inarticulated brachiopod, and a rare endemic Hawaiian rice coral. Okay. Important invasive introduced species. So it looks like algae is a big one. Snowflake coral, black corals. Oh, no, sorry. Snowflake corals threatening black corals. Mangroves do not occur naturally in Hawaii, but introduced species, the red and oriental mangroves, have become invasive. Depth, main Hawaiian Island shelf, roughly 0 to 200 meters, so all in the sunlit zone. Northwest Hawaiian Islands, banks of seamounts, roughly 0 to 200 meters, so all fairly shallow. Sea surface temperature, 24 degrees Celsius in winter, 23 in summer, so very, very stable, very, very warm waters. So it sounds, I mean, you know, it's a cliche, but it sounds really paradisal, especially in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. Just crystal clear water, beautiful, pristine coral reefs, really exciting setting for sharks. And I think without further ado, let's go meet some. So this website, this is Hawaiian Adventure Diving, and I pulled up a couple different dive websites as well as a couple biology websites, but I'm excited to kind of take a peek at each one and see the dive notes of each species to see, like, you know, if there's any nuances and what we can learn. So without further ado, our first Hawaiian shark is the Galapagos shark, Carcharodontis galapagensis. Species of requiem shark in the family Carcharodontidae, found worldwide. This species favors clear reef environments around oceanic islands, where it is often the most abundant shark species. A large species that often reaches 9 to 10 feet. I've heard that Galapagos sharks are a little... You got to be careful around them. They're not like a classically dangerous shark per se, but they are a shark that get to such a large size and can be a little bit curious. I've definitely heard that Galapagos sharks, you know, can be a little bit problematic to spend time with. So just be careful diving with this species. Galapagos sharks are active predators, often encountered in large groups. Reproduction is viviparous, with females bearing litters of 4 to 16 pups every 2 to 3 years. The most commonly seen shark, their behavior is bold, inquisitive, and persistent. Speaking of dive notes, I think it would be really cool to kind of cross-reference with our good friend Andy Murch, learning as we kind of meet each Hawaiian shark, seeing if there's any other additional notes, and really beautiful photographs of each species too. So I know he's probably has a Galapagos shark here. So let's see, Galapagos shark. There we go. So these guys sometimes get confused with dusky sharks, just with the position of the dorsal fin. Here we go. Where it's a little bit further back on the body. Really beautiful classic Carcharodontis look. So just very streamlined, very sleek. Just sort of like a sharky shark. Just like your classic definition of a shark. This species falls pretty squarely within that. So Conservation status least concern. The Galapagos shark is caught as bycatch in commercial and small-scale lawline, purse seine, and gillnet fisheries. Population reductions were reported in Brazil. It's probably depleted elsewhere. It's thought to be stable much of the Pacific range, but comes under pressure from illegal lawlining around the seamounts of eastern Pacific, such as Galapagos Islands in Ecuador and Cocos Island in Costa Rica. Reaction to divers. Fairly tolerant of scuba divers at sites where they're habituated to the presence of divers. Let's see. Habitat. The Galapagos shark favors clear tropical water near coral or rocky reefs on offshore islands and seamounts. It's rarely inshore, although readily investigate disturbances near the surface, prefers to swim a few meters above the reef. I'm going to just breeze through the diving logistics to see if Hawaii is named, because we have Galapagos sharks are about all the popular offshore islands, diving destinations in the eastern Pacific. Rivola Gigedo Archipelago. Cocos Island. Cocos is like a very famous shark place. Oh, here we go. For those wanting a slam dunk easy photo shoot, shark tour operators at Halaiwa on Hawaii's North Shore offer baited shark cage snorkeling with Galapagos and sandbar sharks. Ooh, behavior. Galapagos sharks aggregate around offshore islands where food is abundant, but they do not appear to form polarized schools. Where they occur with other species, they show dominance over black-tip sharks, but are subordinate to silver-tips. Interesting. I love shark species hierarchies where certain sharks will yield to other sharks. The famous one I always talk about is bull sharks, where sand tigers and sandbar sharks will yield to bull sharks, which makes sense because bull sharks are apex predators, and they actually do go after... I don't know about sand tiger sharks, but they definitely go after sandbar sharks. So it's kind of cool to see in this setting, Galapagos sharks, they kind of take priority over black-tip sharks, but yield to silver tips. Andy writes, I've watched Galapagos sharks hunt actively hunting among schools of jacks towards dusk at Roca Partida in Rivilla Gigedo Archipelago. What's your take on shark baiting cage diving? Good question. So, just saw your question, Tim. That's a good one. I would say I'm mostly... It's tricky, because I would say if I had to take a side, I would be more pro dive operations than anti. And the reason being is that there's such an enormous amount of fisheries impact to sharks, where there's just fisheries operators around the ocean, around the world, just that just catching killables without abandon. And so with that, the portion of fisheries operators versus the portion of ecotourism operations. Currently, I think they're very skewed towards commercial fishing. And so I would say these operators definitely do have an impact in the sense that they start like there is a demonstrable impact on the sharks that these dive operators have, where they're starting to habituate them to aggregating at a feeding site, and it does affect their behavior, and it does change their behavior. And so there's a lot of great research on how that affects them, and there's a lot of great research on the pros and cons of that. However, the amount of impact from an ecotourism operation versus a commercial fishing operation, it's commercial fishing is just so prevalent that I feel like the negative impact of ecotourism is not as dire as commercial fishing, especially when you consider that the ecotourism, it helps bring awareness to sharks, and it helps actually like celebrate them. And it helps like engaging. It really helps engage people with them and make them something more valuable alive than dead. So to answer your question, I am supportive of it, but there's an asterisk there where I definitely want to acknowledge that we are changing their behavior. If you do baited cage diving, it does affect their behavior. I'm largely supportive of it. I think the positive impact currently outweighs the negative impact in terms of just the amount of interest and money that a live shark brings, and incentivizing protecting these animals, I'm very supportive of that. So, also welcome back, Howard. You're just in time for we're just starting the biodiversity tour of Hawaiian sharks. So, and I think this was your suggestion from last week, doing like a regional approach to an episode. So I'm excited to dive in. This is our first region episode, and Hawaii is a really, really great start. So, yeah. Thank you, Tim. I agree. Mixed feelings, but calling attention to beautiful sharks is a good thing. Yep, absolutely. I think my favorite is like just it's really I this has happened to me rarely, but just I love just kind of running into like sharks just in a like a non simulated setting. It's like you're just kind of either wading in the water or just kind of swimming, and you just see one in its natural habitat, and you're not doing anything to attract it. It's just there. It's really rare. I would say in the mid-Atlantic of the U.S., it's very difficult to kind of, unless you're fishing or diving, it's very, very, very difficult to see a shark, just because they tend to stick to deeper water. But there's been a few times where I've seen some just cruising right on the shoreline, or just kind of like, just I mean, they're there. It's just that it's not often that you get to see them. But anyway, the point being, like seeing them in their natural setting where they're not enticed to get close to you, that they're just there. I love those moments. It's like the best. So I'm just gonna pick maybe one photo of a Galapagos shark. This one looks pretty good, actually. So maybe we'll do more than one, but yeah. So again, very classic Carcharodontis look. You can kind of see how these guys get confused with dusky sharks. It looks like the origin of the dorsal fin is a little bit more tucked in to the insertion of the pectoral fin. Dusky sharks still have their origin of the dorsal fin right behind the inferior tip, but these guys sometimes get confused with them. But really cool shark, just a classic look. So shark number one for Hawaii is the Galapagos shark. Let's see what's next. Shark number two, the gray reef shark. So really good pick. I think within the past year, I think we did an episode on the species. So right off the gate, these sharks are very, very famous for having complex social behavior and for signaling to each other aggression or dominance behaviors, or what's the word? Agonistic behaviors. So these are probably the most famous examples of sharks that swim in an exaggerated way. Like if they'll be cruising normally if they're calm, but if they start to get irritated by a diver's presence or another shark's presence, they will actually start to angle the pectoral fins down. They'll arch their backs and they'll swim in a very weird way, and in a way where something's wrong and something's up, and they let you know if they're annoyed, which is really cool. I just think that's really interesting about these species. So, gray reef shark, Carcharodontis amblyrhynchos, a species of requiem shark in the family Carcharodontidae. One of the most common reef sharks in the Indo-Pacific, most individuals are less than 6 feet. They are fast-swimming, agile predators. An aggressive demeanor enables them to dominate many other shark species on the reef despite their size. They gather in groups of up to 20. They were the first shark species known to perform a threat display, a behavior warning that is prepared to attack. So I'd love to see notes from Andy on gray reef sharks. So here's a Galapagos shark, so same genus, but different species. So let's take a look at gray reef sharks. Here we go. So this is order Carcharodontiformes. Did I skip it? There it is. Gray reef shark, Carcharodontis amblyrhynchos. Also known as the gray whaler, or just simply the reef shark. A really beautiful photo. And you can immediately tell it's the same genus as the Galapagos shark. This almost, at just first glance, this almost looks identical to the shark that we saw previously. There's a couple subtle features that are a little bit different. So definitely, it's a little bit of a smaller proportion. Actually, let's see if we can compare them side by side to zero in on some of the differences. This might be a cool exercise to help parse out like the subtle differences in this genus Carcharinus, it's probably the most notorious shark genus. It's very difficult for even like professional researchers to tell species apart. So let's go back to Galapagos shark. Where are you? There you are. Okay, so they look super similar. But let's see. They actually look extremely similar. Look at that. It looks like the gray reef shark is a little bit more of a slender build in the head, and the eyes proportionally look a little bit larger than the Galapagos shark eyes. The origin of the pectoral fin looks to be the same as far as the gills go, which is kind of wild. The Galapagos shark's pectoral fins do look a little bit longer than the gray reef shark. Gray reef shark's pectoral fins look a little bit more compact. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can get another picture of a Galapagos shark there. Looks like the gray reef shark has more distinct dusky margin on its caudal fin than the Galapagos shark. Galapagos shark looks like it doesn't have that marking, but it looks like gray reef shark has a really distinct dusky blotch on its caudal fin. So very subtle differences that help tell the two species apart, but again, in the wild, in the water, this would be really difficult. So gray reef shark conservation status is endangered, unfortunately. The gray reef shark is heavily targeted and caught as bycatch throughout much of its range. It is often retained for its fins, flesh, skin, teeth, and liver. Gray reef sharks also have been impacted by reef degeneration due to climate change, dynamite fishing, and runoff. Although major declines have been reported in some areas, gray reef sharks are still locally abundant in areas where they're protected, such as in French Polynesia. Carcharinus amblyrhynchos is estimated to have declined by 50 to 79% in the last 3 generation lengths, 44 years. So, really interesting that these two sharks superficially look really similar, but Galapagos sharks are least concerned. Gray reef sharks are endangered. They're widely different. And I suspect that one thing that kind of helps Galapagos sharks is that they're not as reef dependent. They are a little bit more pelagic, whereas gray reef sharks stick to the reef more. And that might be a big factor in terms of why they're not doing as well. That's kind of my guess. But as far as gray reef sharks go, their reaction to divers are quite easy to approach with non-threatening movements, especially when they're habituated to the presence of divers. They live in tropical reefs, atoll passes, and lagoons, inshore along deep oceanic drop-offs. Let's see. Diving logistics. Although their numbers have declined, gray reef sharks are still abundant in many areas too numerous to list here. Let's see. Perhaps the most spectacular place to encounter them is the south pass of Fakarava Atoll and the Tuamotu Archipelago of French Polynesia. Let's see. I'm just skimming for Hawaii. Yeah, so looks like it's not included here. Behavior. The gray reef shark is a highly social species that is often seen in large polarized groups swimming slowly upstream in current-swept passes of atolls or reef channels by day. At night, individuals leave the group to hunt alone on nearby reefs and drop-offs. Gray reefs show a high degree of site fidelity, sometimes venturing quite far offshore, but always return to the same spot to rest. In some areas, they may undergo migrations, perhaps in search of food or to mate. One individual tagged a remote island in the Coral Sea traveled 250 kilometers to the Great Barrier Reef and back. When threatened, gray reef sharks perform an agonistic threat display by lowering their pectoral fins, arching their backs, and swimming in an exaggerated manner. So, really cool species. I think it's hard to pick a photo because all of these are really good. But maybe this one, because this kind of shows their beautiful schooling habit. So imagine just a coral reef here, just being on the reef and seeing this incredible school of sharks. You know, you're used to seeing like a school of fish, but just a school of great reef sharks. And now that we're seeing this here, it looks like this is a great characteristic that helped identify them is, again, the dark caudal kind of like the dark margin of the caudal fin, both the upper and the lower lobe. This actually really helps in terms of identifying the species. So really, really cool. Tim, I saw a shark fin as a child while wading in Galveston years ago. Was terrified and fascinated at the same time. It was so cool. Galveston's a hotspot. There's a lot of shark species that are in that area. So it could have been a sandbar or a bull shark. Could have been actually something even rarer, like a fine-toothed shark or maybe even a small-tail shark. So really, really cool. Yes, Howard, dynamite fishing. And I actually, it's really horrible, and I actually don't even know what like how that even works in terms of like that seems so um inaccurate in terms of like what would you expect to catch with that. Yeah, really, really horrible. I think probably one of the worst things I've heard of in coral reefs, and I think this practice is banned in a lot of areas now. Is gosh, I want to say it's arsenic. It's using, or no, chloroform. It's using some kind of chemical. It's like spraying like an actual chemical into reef crevices to coax fish out, like drugged up fish for the aquarium trade. Which is really, really horrible. It's either ours. It's some kind of poison that is sprayed on certain reefs. And again, it's not legal in a lot of areas. So this is one of the reasons why I would never. I really, really don't care for the aquarium, the private aquarium trade. Public aquariums, I support, but private aquariums I get kind of wary of. And it's tricky because a lot of fishes now are bred in like if for places like Petco and stuff, a lot of those fishes are actually bred in the United States, so that's a little different. But exotic fishes where they're like caught in an offshore reef, I just don't really feel good about that personally, just because like they could have been acquired through that technique or other techniques. So just yeah, and it's really tragic too, because like both that and dynamite fishing. It's such a juxtaposition with a pristine, beautiful coral reef. Like, why in the world would you ever destroy that? So, and I'm really grateful for places that have strong ecotourism that promote diving and snorkeling in these beautiful places and incentivize, please protect these areas. They're gorgeous, they're incredible, and we don't want to lose them at all. So, I'm glad that as we continue tonight, we're going to see a couple different dive operators and just kind of it's cool to shout them out, and they ultimately are doing a lot of great work where it's not just like a business, and it's not just an experience or an adventure. It's also something that ultimately helps the ocean in its own way. So next shark. So this is an interesting one for Hawaii, and I shouldn't get excited because this is actually a pretty serious one for Hawaii. The tiger shark, Gallicero cuvier. So the reason why I say that, Hawaii has had a few shark attacks, and this is the primary culprit. There's other shark species in Hawaiian waters, but like other dangerous shark species in Hawaiian waters. But the tiger shark is probably the one with the biggest notoriety and the biggest reputation in this area. So these guys get to be massive. And we all know what tiger sharks are, but they get to be massive. They are voracious and indiscriminate in terms of what they eat. So they are kind of treated as like the living garbage cans of the sea. They consume anything and everything. I've heard from shark experts that they're kind of docile in a weird way, where like in terms of diving, they're not aggressive. They're pretty lackadaisical in controlled dive settings. So they're kind of like big puppies, which is really interesting to hear. And a little bit more, and it's actually kind of fascinating to hear that where every shark has a little bit of a different personality. White sharks, I've heard, are extremely variable in behavior. Some are very curious, some are shy, some are a little bit more aggressive, some are not. Tiger sharks are a little bit dopey in dive settings, I've heard. Bull sharks kind of range from being relatively calm to being very, very bold and just something you don't want to get excited. And then similarly, oceanic whitetips, they actually get pretty bold too, and they get in your face, and they're not something to muck around with. So, but anyway, tiger shark, Gallicerdo cuvier, a species of requiem shark, the only member of the genus Gallicerdo. Also, recently, the only member of the family Gallicerdidae. So this used to be considered a requiem shark, but tiger sharks are so different in their reproduction, and they're so different in other aspects of the biology. They even look so different that they're given their own family, rightfully so. They're just, and that was a pretty recent discovery that they're just very unique sharks. A tank's length of up to over 16 feet, found in tropical and temperate waters, especially in Central Pacific Islands. Name derives from the dark stripes down its body resembling a tiger's pattern. Solitary, mostly nocturnal hunter, the tiger shark is an apex predator having a reputation for eating anything, including other sharks and injured whales. This is a clue of a dangerous shark, by the way. If it goes after a marine mammal, it is a shark that you need to be very careful around, because it will look at somebody in a wetsuit as a potential prey item. Like, that's kind of my rule of thumb, that if it's a shark that is comfortable eating marine mammals, whether it's whales or seals, it is probably probably not the safest animal to be around. So just it's wise to give it respect, give it space. Often found close to the coast in tropical and subtropical waters throughout the world, its behavior is primarily nomadic, but is guided by warmer currents. It stays closer to the equator throughout colder months. Recorded depths of 10 feet to 3,000 feet. Females mate about every 3 years, birthing 10 to 80 pups. That's a huge number. Attacks by tiger sharks in Hawaiian waters have been shown to increase between September and November, when tiger shark females are believed to migrate or give birth. So, very dangerous species. Has a characteristic large heart-shaped teeth with the serrations. These guys famously go after sea turtles, seabirds. And speaking of tiger shark attack, I did see, was able to find a quick little shot of an encounter off of Hawaii. This is off of Oahu specifically, of a fisherman with a tiger shark. So, just to kind of give an example. So, horrifying situation of a tiger shark ramming a kayak. I would never, ever want to be in that situation, just because it's so easy to just kind of knock, especially like an oceanic kayak, so easy to knock that over. So tiger shark just like charging in, taking probably an investigatory bite right on the side. And we'll slow that down just to get a better view of that. So, but it's kind of really incredible how fast that animal is moving. I might have slowed it down a little too much, but you'll see a shape in the top left corner from the distance. Okay, here we go. So, top left corner, you'll see it charging, building up speed, and then you see the shark taking a side bite, and if you look closely, you'll see its eyeball. The nictitating membrane protecting the eye. So really wild encounter. So we'll just do it one more time at full speed. Checking gear, really clear water. Bam! Just shark coming out of nowhere. Taking an investigatory bite, not really liking what it ate, and then just kind of swimming away. So, really freaky encounter. I think I saw a comment. So, Tim, can you tell us more about tiger shark teeth, unusual shape, any other sharks with similar teeth? So, yes, great question. The big thing for so tiger sharks have the heart-shaped teeth, and actually, let's see if we can get that on Shark References. Sharkreferences.com. And their teeth are a little unusual, where the way tiger sharks bite and maybe I should say their jaws are a little unusual in the sense that the way tiger sharks bite and the way their teeth are shaped, it's about kind of wrapping your whole mouth around something like a sea turtle shell, something that's like kind of hard and inflexible, and it's about just kind of like wrapping something really sharp around it, and then just kind of like massaging it off, like just it's a different bite approach from other shark species where like white sharks is like a guillotine. Like white sharks have these huge triangular teeth with serrations, and like they launch their jaws forward, and it's a huge bite that is it literally is like a guillotine. Is the best way to describe it. It's like a clean slam down chunk. Tiger sharks are a little bit different, where when they bite, the way their jaws are, the way their jaws are shaped and the way that the teeth are shaped, it's just about like wrapping their entire mouth around something and then just kind of like wriggling around and kind of like wrestling with it a little bit to do as much damage as possible and try to get an angle on Howard, crushing versus dismembering dentition, trying to get an angle to like rip apart and sea turtles being a great example of this, just trying to find that angle to hook and rip apart like a sea turtle shell, so which is pretty interesting. And then I think in general, for a good indicator in terms of like what a shark eats, or like how much I shouldn't say how much damage a shark does, but if a shark has serrated teeth, it typically means that it's taking large chunks of flesh off of something. So it's not like something like if it's like smooth narrow teeth, it's something that's kind of more like piscivorous dentition, like something that is going after fishes. But if it's like large, broad, serrated teeth, it means it's going after like large chunks of flesh. Whether it's like living, like in terms of like a seal or a whale that's being actively hunted, or something that is scavenged, like whale fall. So a lot of deep sea sharks have actually pretty coarse serrations too, but they're not actively going after prey items. They're just kind of ripping huge chunks of flesh off of rotting whale carcasses. So, but it's so interesting how every shark's jaws are just a little bit, and teeth are just uniquely evolved for their own niche. So we'll take a look at Gallicera cuvier specifically. So tiger shark. We should have the teeth here. There we go. So beautiful classic heart-shaped teeth. So no other shark really has a tooth like this. Like some will have kind of like this recurving tooth with this posterior area, but tiger sharks just like the way they're shaped, where the serrations are so like prominent. I mean, this tooth has multiple cusplets, and each cusplet has serrations on it, so it's like a supercharged tooth. And there's not really a lot of sharks that have this classic heart shape. So this is one of the first descriptions, but that's actually still pretty accurate as far as the how the teeth work here, how the teeth are laid in the jaw. I wonder if we can get. Do we have any jaw sets? Fortunately, not really. So we don't have like an actual jaw set. So, but yeah, just classic shark, and it is very impressive how large they get too. I'd love to see Andy Merck's notes on tiger sharks. So let's see, Shark Array Identification Guide. Let's see. I love that he correctly put tiger sharks in their own family, Gallicerdontidae. So it's a brand new family. Here we go, tiger shark. Gorgeous photo, two tiger sharks here. And these are really, again, they're really big animals, and you can immediately tell just based on their look, this is not a shark to underestimate. Identification, largest of, it's not a carcharodonid, but largest of requiem sharks. Maximum size, 5.4 meters, which is pretty incredible. That starts to get to the average size of a white shark, which is kind of like unbelievable to think about. It's more than double the size of an average. Like maximum length is double the size of a bull shark. Conservation status. Although the tiger shark has large litters, its triennial reproductive cycle makes it very difficult for the population to recover from losses. As well as being a targeted and bycatch component of artisanal and commercial fisheries in many areas, tiger sharks are also impacted by shark control programs, drumlines, and shark nets in countries such as Australia and South Africa. In North America, the population appears to be relatively stable, but significant declines have been reported from other areas. The overall tiger shark population is estimated to have decreased by 30% over the last 3 generation lengths, and declines are expected to continue. Reaction to divers. Given their size, tiger sharks are often surprisingly wary around divers, even when food is introduced. In areas where they are habituated to divers, such as Tiger Beach, they are extremely nonchalant towards divers that are not carrying food. Caution. Tiger sharks have been implicated in numerous attacks in some areas, for example, attacks on surfers and swimmers in Hawaii. So Andy's website is global, and yet it's very interesting to see that Hawaii is mentioned as a top tiger shark attack hotspot. So, excuse me. So as far as diving logistics, Bahamas is a really good place to see them. Let's see if they mention Hawaii at all. They have South Africa, Becca Lagoon in Fiji, which is a very famous location. Maldives. Let's see. Cocos Island again. Hawaii not mentioned for tiger sharks. Behavior. Some tiger sharks migrate over great distances while others stay in one spot for most of the year. The availability of food is probably an important factor. There are records of tagged tiger sharks traveling from northeast USA to Brazil. Tiger sharks have an extremely varied diet. They are known to eat bony fishes, sea turtles, sharks and rays, mollusks and crustaceans. They are largely opportunistic hunters and scavengers, eating whatever is readily available at any given time. This is actually interesting. Reproduction. The tiger shark is the only aplacental viviparous coccyrinid. It has a yolk sac, but does not develop a placental connection to the uterus. So this is really, really unusual, because every other coccyrinid, or every other requiem shark has that. Embryos develop inside shells filled with a yellowish liquid. Jose Castro noted that embryos he examined all had partially inverted stomachs. He speculated that they may be absorbing extra nutrients from this fluid, which would explain their large sizes at birth, larger than the nutrients from the yolk sac could realistically supply. So, if you saw our stream on tiger sharks with Jess Myers, as a really, really cool shark biologist, she goes into the details of tiger shark reproduction. So, if you haven't seen that, it's one of our special streams. Please check it out. It was a really, really fun episode to do with Jess, and she provided a lot of great insight on tiger sharks. So. Habitat: tropical warm temperate seas, found from inshore estuarine environments to the edge of the continental shelf and around oceanic islands. Turbid or clear water, often seen near coral reefs, generally in shallow water but recorded at 1136 meters, so that's midnight zone, which is kind of wild. I've deployed beta deep camera systems that was visited by tiger sharks at 600 to 800 meters off of South Bimini Island. So then we'll take a pic for... There's actually a lot of good tiger shark photos that he has. It's really hard to pick one. Oh man, these are all really good. I would love to take a look at this one, just because, like, look at that. What a unique shot. You could just really see the size of the animal. And then that beautiful pattern on the back. So this changes as they grow, where when they're juveniles, it's kind of more like, actual stripes, distinct stripes, and then as they become adults, they turns into like blotches and it starts to fade a little bit. So really, really gorgeous shark. And that's actually a really good example of the size too. So these guys get really, really big. Again, imagining that this animal is like twice the size of a bull shark is a pretty good size estimate. So Oh, Tim, congratulations! Off to the hospital to welcome my new niece to the world. It's amazing. Congratulations. I hope you have a great rest of your. I know you're gonna have a great rest of your night, but just you know, I don't know what to say. I was about to say good luck, but I don't think I can say that really. Just I don't know. I guess good luck, but have a great night and welcome your baby niece. So thank you so much for watching, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Howard, just saw your comment, by the way. Hemipristis on tooth types. Hemipristis may be the closest today, which is a great example. So snaggletooth sharks. Hemipristis may be the closest today as far as a shark that resembles a tiger shark tooth type, though it is still fundamentally different. The fossil record has several species of tiger shark teeth, which is so cool. It's so interesting to think that there's many different kinds of tiger sharks that have existed in the past, and now we have just one species, this Gallicida cuvier. So, all right. So moving on to our next shark of Hawaii, the blacktip shark. So it's really cool to see this shark. Such a classic Carcharodontis, but with a little bit more distinction, not just in the coloration where it has black tips on the fins, but also just the overall look. These sharks look sharp. The fins are a little bit more falcate. The snout is a little bit pointed. And these guys are actually extremely cool, and kind of near and dear to my heart in the sense that on the east coast of the U.S. in the Atlantic, they make these huge migrations from Florida up to the Mid-Atlantic region every summer. So we actually do get, this is actually the time of year that blacktips would be in this area. So we do get them, and they actually are pretty numerous here. But blacktip shark, Carcharodontis melanopterus, species of requiem shark in the family Carcharodontidae. I need to check something really quick, because I think I might have caught a mistake. Let's see. Hold on. So I got really excited because, and I have a little bit of Monday brain. There we go. Okay. So this is really interesting. This is a very common mistake. Okay. So the photo of the shark here, this is a classic blacktip shark, but this is Carcharodontis limbatus. So this is, let me go back here. It's this species, Carcharodontis limbatus. This is the blacktip shark. So again, very classic look, very sharp looking with the falcate dorsal fin, the pointed snout. So really, really cool animal. In this article here, Carcharodontis melanopterus is actually the blacktip reef shark. So it's a pretty different species, and I'm going to pull it up just as for comparison. And it's very easy to confuse them because of the name, but and it actually threw me off for a little bit too. Let's see, here we go. Blacktip reef shark. Okay, so blacktip reef shark. This is a very different kind of species where you can see immediately it has a prominent. It's almost like you dipped its dorsal fin into paint. Blacktip reef sharks have this beautiful dark black dorsal fin with a little white patch beneath it, and then the caudal fin is also like very deeply colored too. And these guys get to be a little bit smaller than blacktip sharks, so this is a different species, but it's very easy to kind of confuse them. However, the sharks in this photo are classic blacktip sharks. So just want to make sure. Yeah. So we'll just go back to the classic one. Although the blacktip reef shark probably will come back. We'll probably see it again soon. But anyway, blacktip shark. A species of requiem shark in the family Carcharodontidae, easily identified by the prominent black tips and dorsal and caudal fins. One of the most abundant sharks inhabiting tropical reefs of the Indian and Pacific Oceans, they typically reach a length of 5 feet. They have extremely small home ranges, exhibit strong site fidelity, keeping to some local area for several years. Timid and skittish, are difficult to approach and seldom pose a danger to humans. So based on this description, this is actually correctly describing Carcharodontis melanopterus, the blacktip reef shark. Blacktip sharks don't really behave like that, so we're gonna, and I think the photo is a mistake. So we'll go back to the blacktip reef shark. because black-tip sharks are very, very migratory. And this is actually a really good example of how you have to be really careful for like management purposes. Um, if you say you had a fisheries management plan that included both blacktip sharks and blacktip reef sharks, um, you're treating two very different animals the same way. Where blacktip sharks are highly migratory, and blacktip reef sharks are residential. So it's just if say you protected one area and then didn't coordinate with like another government, like the blacktip reef shark will be okay, but a blacktip shark that is migrating out of that area into an area that doesn't have protection would suffer if it was just like this one plan. So common names are really, really tricky, where it's always important to double check like the scientific name and make sure that the shark that you're working with and the shark that you're trying to manage is indeed the correct species. So, but anyway, blacktip reef shark, Carcharodon melanopterus. I'm pretty sure this is the one that they're talking about. So again, prominent black tips with a little white patch beneath them. Habitat: blacktip reef sharks inhabit shallow coral reefs, reef flats, and sandy bays adjacent to reefs. Occasionally they are found offshore over deep water and in brackish estuaries, 0 to 75 meters. Behavior: the blacktip reef shark is an active, strong swimming species that patrols reef ledges and sand flats. It may be found alone or in small groups. Is non-migratory, having one of the smallest home ranges of any shark species. So this is definitely the one that they're talking about. Conservation status is vulnerable. Blacktip reef sharks are caught in a variety of fisheries, including longline, gillnet, handline, and trawling. They are often retained and utilized for their fins, meat, skin, teeth, and liver. Habitat deterioration due to climate change, destructive fishing practices, and poor water quality all contribute to population decline in the species. Blacktip reef shark population has decreased by 30 to 49% in the last 44 years. Reaction to divers: sometimes shy but curious in areas where humans regularly swim or snorkel. Bold in baited situations or when fishermen are tossing scraps overboard. Let's see if Hawaii is mentioned. We have French Polynesia as a hotspot for them. Fiji's Beka Lagoon is a hotspot. And then this shark is so photogenic. There's a lot of amazing pictures of the species. So here's a really nice one. Just because it spends so much of its time around coral reefs. And it's a harmless species to dive with, and just such a pleasant species to spend time with. It's truly one of the best species you could be with as a snorkeler or a diver, where it's a harmless shark, very safe to be in the water with, and offers a lot of exciting photo opportunities. So just some of these are gorgeous photos. Nice little school blacktip reef sharks here. And then here's a nice photo, just like showing the prominent coloration here. Just how striking it is. It's a beautiful species. Scalloped hammerheads. So another classic. These guys are, they're everywhere around the world, but in the Pacific, aggregations of scalloped hammerheads are famous. So it's really cool to see that they're present in Hawaii, and I'm curious if they may gather here in large numbers. Some of the most famous shark photographs in the world are of scalloped hammerheads just gathering in these immense schools migrating across the Pacific. Scalloped hammerhead is a species of hammerhead shark in the family Sphyrnidae. It was originally known as Zygaena lewinii. The Greek word sphyrna translates into hammer in English, referring to the shape of the shark's head, which is its most distinguishing characteristic. The shark's eyes and nostrils at the tips of the extensions. It is a fairly large hammerhead, but it's still smaller than both the great and smooth hammerheads. So love this shot from below, where you can see that gorgeous profile. These guys are really cool. I keep talking about the one that I've seen offshore in Virginia, but again, it's a cosmopolitan species, so unfortunately it's a critically endangered species too. And we all know why, because we've talked about it so much on the channel, just in terms of like what makes hammerheads so vulnerable. But it's always a very important group of sharks to draw attention to. So, and I know this website has, here we go, scalped hammerhead. It's like one of the most famous sharks in the world. Beautiful photograph here, actually, too. So, just beautiful curves, just in terms of, like, you can see just the scalped hammerhead cephalofoil, how it flows beautifully into the gills, the head, into that very high prominent dorsal fin, and then into the caudal fin. So, conservation status: critically endangered. The scalped hammerhead is fished globally as a target and bycatch species in pelagic, commercial, and small-scale longline, purseine, and gillnet fisheries. It is retained for the meat and fins. When released, post-release survivorship is thought to be very low. This is a huge problem. So when these guys get caught, they last only an hour or two on the hook, just because they need to swim freely in order to breathe. So if they're restricted in their movement, it causes a lot of distress, and it eventually tires them out and suffocates them. It's really sad. Just part of why scalped hammerheads are critically endangered. Bycatch is such a huge issue for this group of sharks. After decades of intensive fishing for the shark fin trade, the scalped hammerhead has undergone dramatic declines globally, but there's signs of stabilization and possible recovery in response to management only in the Northwest Atlantic and Sea of Cortez globally. Not globally, but management only in the Northwest Atlantic and Sea of Cortez. Globally, the population is thought to have been reduced by 79 to 97% in the last 70 years. So, really steep drop-off, unfortunately, for that species. Reaction to divers. Shy and easily spooked by loud noises such as divers' bubbles. Very difficult to approach when viewing in schooling behavior. Divers often have better success when using rebreathers. Discreetly positioning yourself next to a cleaning station and trying to breathe slowly generally yields the best results. Can be aggressive, making close passes in baited situations, rarely seen by snorkelers. Habitat is inshore to offshore seamounts. Adults are more pelagic, intertidal to 275 meters. Let's see, behavior. Although scalped hammerheads are encountered individually, they have been well documented swimming in huge schools around seamounts and offshore drop-offs where they approach cleaning stations to rid themselves of parasites. When they swim in polarized schools, it's unclear as it is unusual behavior among sharks. However, divers have witnessed scalped hammerheads in coitus, two individuals coupling and crashing to the reef before separating, so schooling behavior may be primarily related to reproduction. Let's see, so places that you can find scalped hammerheads. We'll see if Hawaii is mentioned. We've got Galapagos Islands, Malpelo Island off Panama, Cocos Island, of course. Let's see, Sea of Cortez, Nukuhiva, and Marquesas. Japan. We got Florida as a spot. And then, interesting note, El Nino years may see less hammerheads as the water becomes too warm at recreational scuba depths and the sharks may stay deeper. Following El Nino years may be the best schooling activity as the sharks are in dire need of the cleaning stations that they were unable to reach in the previous year. Love to see this photo, by the way. So, really great shot of scalped hammerheads cruising over a coral reef. Beautiful view of the enormity of the schools scalped hammerheads can be seen in. It's such an amazing sight. Just imagine like looking into blue and you just see like hundreds of scalped hammerheads just swimming in the water column. Such a gorgeous animal. It's one of my favorite. I love all sharks, but if I had to pick favorites, this is up there. These guys are incredibly cool animals. So. I think we have a few more first tour, and it's another hammerhead, the smooth hammerhead. So we don't talk about these guys too much. In terms of our, in general, but also in our Hawaii tours. I wasn't expecting to see this one. So smooth hammerheads, here is a guy. And the reason why I was not expecting to see it is that these guys tend to be found in colder water than the scalloped hammerheads. It's kind of cool to see that they can be seen in Hawaii. So, Spherozogyna smooth hammerhead is a species of hammerhead shark in the family Spherinidae. Unlike other hammerheads, the species prefers temperate waters and occurs worldwide at medium latitudes. In the summer, these sharks migrate towards the poles, following cooler water masses, sometimes forming schools numbering in the hundreds to thousands. It's really cool to see that these guys look so similar to scalloped hammerheads, and actually it's almost impossible to tell in the wild based on the cephalofoil. You can see that it has a smooth interior edge here, but it still has divots on the side, so it's just that's just maddening in terms of being able to identify the species from like a distance. Very, very difficult. I think we have dive notes on smooth hammerheads on this website, so let's see. So far in our Hawaiian shark tour, a lot of classics, a lot of like really, all in carcharodontiforms, which is kind of interesting. So, and carcharodontiforms are the classic warm water sharks. So Hawaii has a stable warm temperature, and it's kind of interesting to see that we haven't seen any lambdaforms or dogfish or anything, and those are classic cold water animals anyway. So far in the crystal clear waters of Hawaii near reefs, it's reef sharks and hammerhead sharks and tiger sharks. So a great shot of a smooth hammerhead here. Really beautiful species, very unusual looking. Conservation status vulnerable. Another great thing about this species is that most hammerheads are critically endangered, but this one is unusual in the sense that it's actually faring better than the others. The smooth hammerhead is heavily fish target and bycatch species in longline, purseine, and gillnet fisheries worldwide. It is retained for its fins and sometimes its meat. After steep declines were recorded in the Atlantic, the introduction of management measures have resulted in slow recovery. Declines in the smooth hammerhead population in the South Pacific have slowed, and there have been increased populations in the Indian Ocean. Catch data indicates a global population reduction of 30 to 49%. Similar to scalloped hammerhead, the smooth hammerhead is shy and easily spooked by loud noises such as divers' bubbles, but relatively easy to approach on snorkel and baited situations. This hammerhead lives in inshore bays to offshore continental shelves, from the surface to at least 55 meters, but based on its preference for cooler water when compared to other hammerheads, the smooth hammerhead probably ventures into deeper water in tropical regions. In the western North Atlantic, tagged juveniles spend the summer in New York Bight and then move south to Cape Hatteras in the winter. Diving logistics. This is traditionally a difficult species to encounter, but recent introduction of organized shark feeds near Cabo San Lucas and the southern tip of Baja has made photographing smooth hammerheads relatively easy. Let's see. Behavior. Little is known about the habits of smooth hammerhead. It is rarely encountered on the east coast of North America, but more common in the eastern Pacific, where it enters shallow bays to give birth. For example, La Paz Bay and protected coastal areas further north in the Gulf of California. Andy has seen small juveniles within 1 kilometer shore near Mboiki Bay and Waterfall Bluff in South Africa, indicating it's another nursery area. Great shots of a smooth hammerhead here. This one is actually pretty interesting. You can actually see, this is so cool. You can see the nictitating membrane coming up to protect the eyeball as this shark is getting very close to camera. So what a unique view that you don't really see too often in hammerheads. I like this one. Just pretty adorable hammerhead face right here. So it's kind of cool that there's a couple other subtleties that I can tell it's not a scalloped hammerhead aside from the head shape, but it's hard to put my finger on it, like what makes them different. I feel like they just kind of have like a little bit of a different attitude. It's a pretty interesting shark. Alright, the next one, I think there's only 2 more. Okay, 2 more. So 2 more in our shark tour, and then we're going to try to look at some mythology related to the species. So, Silky shark, Carcharodon falciformis, is a pretty famous pelagic species, also known by numerous names such as the black spot shark, gray whaler shark, olive shark, ridgeback shark, sickle-shaped shark, and sickle silk shark. Is a species of record shark in the family Carcharodonidae, named for the smooth texture of the skin. It is one of the most abundant sharks in the pelagic zone. It can be found around the world in tropical waters. I'm sure Andy has a bunch of silky shark pictures. These guys are really popular around oil rigs of all places. Just because again they're an offshore species. And in our Hawaiian shark tour, it's kind of cool to see we're seeing a mix of species that occupy the reef and then species that occupy mid-water. And that makes sense as far as Hawaii goes, where you have these amazing islands with these coral reefs surrounding the islands and then this steep drop-off into the blue, So silky shark, this one's actually a little bit easier to identify because the dorsal fin is a bit lower and smaller, a little bit more rounded, and it's very far back in the body compared to other kinds of Carcharodonus. And it's actually a little bit thinner than other Carcharodonus too. So this one's easier to tell apart than when we were comparing the Galapagos shark with the gray reef shark. Conservation status is vulnerable. The silky shark is one of the 3 most traded shark species in the global fin trade. They're caught in great numbers in targeted fisheries and bycatch and tuna longline and purse seine fisheries. It is estimated silky sharks declined by 47 to 54% over the last 3 generations. In terms of diving, these sharks can be shy, but are often inquisitive around scuba divers making close passes. As with oceanic whitetips, their instinct is to investigate any object in the water. That is an important trait for the species that lives in the marine desert far from shore. So part of what makes oceanic whitetip sharks so dangerous is that the open ocean where they live is devoid of a lot of opportunities to hunt. And so if you see any kind of object, you zoom in on it as a potential prey item. So, and that's also part of the reason why oceanic whitetips are critically endangered, is that they swim towards things like fishing boats, and unfortunately that was what gets them tangled and gets them hooked. Silky sharks, it's interesting to see that they're similar, but they're kind of faring better than oceanic whitetips overall. Habitat, a tropical surface-dwelling species mostly found over deep, clear water along the continental shelf and even further afield in the center of the marine deserts. Silkies also enter shallow bays, found from the surface to at least 500 meters. Let's see. Silky sharks could be seen along virtually any tropical coastline with access to deep water. They're particularly abundant in many offshore tropical islands. So we have a lot of classics, so Malpelo, Cabo San Lucas, Bahamas, Cat Island. Behavior, silky sharks are ocean wanderers. They are often seen following schools of tuna. Silkies segregate by size. Juveniles may be found inshore or under floating objects in the deep ocean. They're known to perform agonistic threat display, so that's actually similar to the gray reef shark, towards divers with lowered pectoral fins and arched back. They've also been recorded swimming flank to flank while gaping their jaws and puffing out their gills. That's a behavior I haven't heard of before, so this is likely an attempt to demonstrate their size dominance. A lot of great opportunities to get beautiful photographs of silky sharks, so what a gorgeous animal, especially since they live in open ocean environments. And I love the eyes on these sharks. Just they have that classic, like, I always think of like velociraptors, like just like these incredible, really, really alarming eyes. They're so cool. And just like sunlight rippling in the deep blue here. It's such a gorgeous shark. Alright, last one in our Hawaiian shark tour before we dive into some mythology. Of all things, the sandbar shark. And these guys, this is so cool for me personally, because sandbar sharks are famously, it's probably the most famous shark of Virginia, and famously in the Atlantic, they use the Chesapeake Bay to pup. And so it's kind of cool to see in the Pacific, Hawaii is a big hotspot for sandbar sharks. It's kind of fun to compare where this is such a classic species, a charismatic species for Virginian waters, And it's great to see that it's also a charismatic species for Hawaiian waters. And these two populations, they behave pretty differently. Where the Virginian sandbar sharks, they occupy the continental shelf and go into these estuaries to pup, and are classic like nearshore sharks. Whereas the Hawaiian sandbar sharks, they're more like they occupy reef habitats and habitats adjacent to deep water, so they're kind of like insular populations, which is pretty interesting. So sandbar shark, Carcharodon plumbeus, also known as the brown shark or thick-skinned shark, is a species of requiem shark and part of the family Carcharodonidae, native to the Atlantic Ocean and the Indo-Pacific. It is distinguishable by its very high first dorsal fin and interdorsal ridge. It is not to be confused with the similarly named sand tiger shark or Carcharodon taurus. In spite of their large size and similar appearance to other dangerous sharks such as bull sharks, sandbar sharks are not considered to be dangerous to people. Very few, if any, attacks are attributed to sandbar sharks. As a result, they're considered one of the safest sharks to swim with and are popular sharks for aquaria. So beautiful, beautiful photograph of a sandbar shark, by the way, here. Then we'll take a look at some dive notes on sandbar sharks. Let's see. So last shark to review. Here we go. Classic photograph on the Andy Merck website, or Andy Merch website, sharksandrays.com. Love this photograph of sandbar sharks, by the way. I've used this in one of my middle grade books, actually. Conservation status endangered. Due to their semi-pelagic and demersal nature, sandbar sharks are captured in many types of artisanal and industrial fisheries. Their low reproductive rate leaves them very vulnerable to overfishing. Where species-specific data is available, sandbar sharks have declined by 50 to 80% over the last 3 generation lengths. These sharks are shy around scuba divers, but more approachable in baited situations. They're subtropical and temperate species. Juveniles are commonly found in shallow water. Adults more common to 20 to 50 meters. Sandbar sharks are often seen in the surfline or in waters so shallow that they are sometimes temporarily grounded as they cross sandy bays. Depth range from the surface to 280 meters. It's so cool to read this, by the way, because I saw a sandbar shark a couple weeks ago. Sandbar sharks are often seen in the surfline or in waters so shallow they sometimes temporarily grounded as they cross sandy bays. So the shark that I saw was swimming about 1 meter or 2 meters of water, which is really not that deep. And it was so cool to see its dorsal fin cruising very close to the shoreline. So it's kind of cool to see that that's a little bit corroborated with this typical behavior. Diving logistics. Although widespread, there are few areas where sandbar sharks could be reliably encountered, including Hawaii. So off Haleʻiwe and Oahu, Hawaii, there are a handful of boats that offer chum dives that attract sandbar and Galapagos sharks. Depending on the operator, these may be cage dives, or open water drift dives, or snorkels. The amount of sharks varies, but on a good day there are plenty to go around. Behavior. Here we go. Some populations of sandbar sharks undergo seasonal migrations related to water temperature or reproduction. In Jose Castro's Sharks in North America, he pieces together various studies to describe the big picture. Adult females that mate in the summer migrate south in the fall and winter off the coast of Florida. In or before March, they are the first to migrate, returning north to shallow nursery grounds between South Carolina and New York, where they give birth in midsummer. They remain until September and then travel south in winter off of Georgia and the Carolinas with the male sandbar population. Interestingly, the males do not travel north with the females. Of 300 sharks sampled in Great South Bay, New York, only 3 were males. This migration pattern effectively limits the opportunities for adult male sandbars from predating on collective offspring. And then just beautiful shot of a sandbar shark. The dorsal fin being the obviously distinguishing feature of the species. It's very easy to tell this apart from other shark species just because it's so large, it's so high on the body, but also it's so far up relative to the pectoral fin. So it's a very unique look compared to other kinds of sharks. Alright, so in summary we have sandbar sharks, silky sharks, smooth hammerheads, scout hammerheads. Should be a black tip reef shark, tiger shark, gray reef shark, and Galapagos shark. So you have this really cool mix of, again, reef-dwelling sharks, large predatory sharks, and then sharks that occupy pelagic environments but come close to the reef. So this is sort of the setting for Hawaiian sharks, and this is our first collection of Hawaiian sharks. And we took a look at their conservation, we took a look at their habitat, we took a look at a little bit of their behavior and biology. But I'm really curious to learn more about the mythology. And so I think there's a couple sources that I pulled up. Let's see. Typical size. Best time of year. Because I pulled up a couple different dive operators. Let's see. Okay. We'll read this one a little bit. Hawaii's spiritual connection to the shark. Okay. I think we'll kind of dive into this. Okay. The sharks of Hawaii. Okay. So we'll dive into this because I pulled up a couple sources related to Hawaiian shark culture. So here we go. Hawaii's spiritual connection to the shark. And here's a beautiful tiger shark in this article. In Hawaii, sharks have a significant importance for native people whose traditions and cultural beliefs surround these majestic marine predators. Sharks play an important role in art, legends, and even spiritual beliefs. Throughout Hawaiian folklore, stories, legends, and myths feature sharks as deities in interactions with humans. Sharks as individuals and as symbols are even revered by many native Hawaiians. Some species of sharks, like the tiger shark, have a special status as aumakua, or family guardians. Aumakua are spiritual beings that take on the form of animals or other objects and may serve as messengers between humans and the gods. And aumakua may manifest as a shark, owl, bird, octopus, or inanimate objects such as plants or lava rocks. Many Hawaiians believe that aumakua are their ancestors, a manifestation of deceased family members who return in different forms. In this way, the aumakua embodies the interconnectedness of humans between plants, animals, elements, and humans. According to Hawaiian scholar Parley Kanakaole, some Hawaiians have certain sharks, not all sharks, that they choose as their aumakua. Kanakaole explains it could work both ways. It could work both ways, where the shark can also choose a human as their aumakua. For those who are living, they not only look at that particular animal as being sacred, but all of its species as being sacred. There are certain animals that our people look at being as aumakua, whether it be an owl or a particular type of fish or shark. So we look at not only that particular shark, but all species of shark as being sacred to that one family. Hawaiian artist and cultural scholar Herb Kawainui Kane is quoted in an interview that aumakua were invisible to the living, but able to possess or inhabit many visible forms, animate or inanimate. A rock or a small carved image set up as a family shrine within the home may serve as resting place for aumakua. Kahumano is our new film on Hawaiian sharks, culture, and traditional conservation. In the film, we use the image Feeding the Aumakua by Mr. Kane, reenacting one of the myths of the fisherman calling the shark. According to Mr. Kane, an Aumakua could also take possession of living creatures. Unusual experiences with specific fish, birds, reptiles, insects, or mammals may have led some Hawaiians to regard certain animals as forms favored by their Aumakua. Thus, it was believed that ancestral spirits could make appearances to express parental concern for the living, bringing warnings of impending danger, comfort in time of stress or sorrow, or in other ways being helpful. Interesting. There's a couple more notes here in terms of the mythology. So sharks and their Olelo Hawaii, Hawaiian language. Lots of nearshore species of sharks in Hawaii actually have different names in Olelo Hawaii, Hawaiian language, and Hawaiians understood the difference between the species of sharks they would regularly see while fishing, swimming, etc. This blog post, we will highlight some of the sharks that had Hawaiian names, their cultural significance, and a little bit about their biology. So this is actually really cool. We didn't see this in that first dive operator, but this is a thresher shark. And by the looks of it, it looks like it's a pelagic thresher. So that's a Alopius pelagicus. So here we go. The first shark on our list is the thresher shark. There are 3 species of thresher sharks that are found in Hawaiian Islands. The pelagic thresher, Alopius pelagicus, up to 11 feet. The big eye thresher, Alopius superciliosus, up to 15 feet. And the common thresher shark, Alopius vulpinus, up to 18 feet. The Hawaiian name for thresher shark is Mano'ula or Laukahu'u. These are the only 2 surviving names associated with thresher sharks in Hawaiian culture, but that does not mean that Hawaiians do not have individual names for individual species. Hawaiian culture was passed on orally, so keep in mind that words and names could have been lost or forgotten. Mano'ula in Hawaiian language means red shark, but clearly the thresher shark is not red. Ula was a color reserved for ali'i, kings, and represented royalty and strength. Another meaning for ula was the short name for the Hawaiian seabird, koe'eula, also known as the red-tailed tropic bird, Phython rubricata. Mano'ula, thresher shark, and Koa'eula, red-tailed tropical bird, both share a similar slender tail. Perhaps Mano'ula was named after Koa'eula, or vice versa, because they both bear distinctive long tails. Thresher sharks use their long tails to strike and stun prey while hunting. So it's actually really cool. I was wondering why this bird was pictured with this shark. But very, very amazing connection where 2 very different animals, but both possessing the very long tails. Kind of cool that that's what's referenced in terms of the Hawaiian name for thresher sharks. Another shark that we didn't see in the dive notes was the whale shark. And like, what a photograph here, too. Look at that size comparison if you have a diver here next to this enormous whale shark that actually looks maybe potentially pregnant, too. So incredibly large whale shark here next to this diver, just dwarfed by the whale shark's presence. Whale shark. Our second shark is the whale shark, Le'ewa'a, Rhynchodon typus. Aloha mai kakau. The second shark on the list is the whale shark, Rhynchodon typus, which can grow up to 60 feet in length. It can be found in tropical oceans around the world. Whale sharks are harmless and are one of the few sharks that feed solely on plankton. The word for whale shark in Olelo, Hawaii, Hawaiian language, is Lelewa'a, which literally means canoe jump. The whale shark was described by Hawaiian historian Samuel Kamakau as Le'ewa'a, and one of the basic sharks found in Hawaiian waters. Le'ewa'a is described in the Hawaiian dictionary as literally jumping from canoe to canoe as sport for surfing to the shoreline. Kamakau inferred that Hawaiians could have possibly encountered a whale shark near shore while partaking in the spot of Le'ewa'a, jumping in the back of a whale shark instead of their canoe and riding the whale shark back to shore. Hawaiians named the whale shark after a popular sport that took place back in the day, Le'ewa'a. Interesting. This is a pretty interesting depiction of reef sharks. This is a gray reef shark. Our third and last shark on the list today is the gray reef shark, Mano, Carcharodon amblyrhynchos, which can grow up to 6 feet and is widely distributed across the Indo-Pacific region. The gray reef shark is one of the most abundant sharks found in northwestern Hawaiian Islands, but seems to be more restricted to certain areas in the main Hawaiian Islands, more frequently sighted off of Ni'ihau or Molokini Crater in Maui. Large social aggregations of pregnant female gray reef sharks have been well documented in northwestern Hawaiian Islands around Kauo, or Laysan Island, and Kalama Atoll, Johnson Atoll. Aggregation behaviors of the gray reef shark is poorly understood, but possible functions have been proposed, 1 being reproduction, 2 being mate selection, 3 being energy conservation, and 4 being protection from large predators. Perhaps pre-Western contact before boats, coastal runoff, and noise pollution, gray reef sharks used to have natural aggregation sites around the shallow bays of the main Hawaiian islands. Mo'olelo legends tell of kahumano, shark guardians or shark keepers, whose sole job was to care for sharks. Tasks would include feeding, cleaning, and keeping company with family, aumakua, literally treating them as family members. So this is the other term that we saw in the other article, aumakua. Perhaps the mono in these legends could be about Hawaiian gray reef sharks, as they've been scientifically documented to aggregate in huge numbers near shore, where Hawaiians could have easily come in contact with them. This could also explain the reason why Hawaiians built heiau, temples, places of worship, in the ocean or near shore, devoted to the shark gods and aumakua. The name for gray reef shark in Olelo, Hawaiian language, has been lost, and they are usually just referred to as mono. So really, really interesting article here. And already just a lot of amazing context. So aumakua, like that familiarity with sharks in that degree where they're treated as family is so interesting. Let's see. There's some more on the first article we're reading. So in the film Kauamano, Hawaiian cultural leader Maika Kamohaoli'i, whose name bears the traditional name of the shark deity, discusses the role of Mano, the shark, and his family Aumakua, and the significance of sharks to the family. Legend has it the shark god Kamohoali'i led his sister Pele, goddess of the volcano, on a voyaging canoe from the ancient homeland of Kawaiki to Hawaii. Hawaiian mythology states that Madame Pele's spirit still resides in Halaima'uma'u crater on Kilauea today. The spiritual connection to sharks have led Hawaiian fishermen away from killing sharks, and even manifested itself into the strongest shark protection in the world. Hawaii was the first U.S. state to ban the shark fin trade and enforce the unlawful trafficking of fins. Hawaii is also the only state to prohibit recreational and commercial shark fishing. Sharks play an integral role in the marine ecosystem by regulating prey populations and helping maintain healthy coral reefs. Thanks to the Kaumano, Hawaii has demonstrated leadership and sets the example for the rest of the world to protect sharks. So cool. Let's see, so I know we only have a couple minutes left, so I'm going to just check other dive operators really quickly to see if we missed any other notes for other species. And then I think we'll wrap it up. But I think this has been a really exciting episode in terms of like looking at sharks in a region, and I'd love to do this next week. I know, I believe Howard mentioned New Zealand as a potential spot, so I think New Zealand might be a really, really cool pick for next week's episode. Before we wrap up, we'll take a look at dive notes from other operators to see if we missed anything, so I'm just going to skim through. Meaning sharks of Hawaii. So actually, already, here's one that was not mentioned, the oceanic white-tip shark. Next to some pilot whales. So if I was those pilot whales, I'd be actually really worried, because these guys are pretty dangerous, and they go after marine mammals. Oh, man. See, Kona in the waters of the Big Island of Hawaii is home to many types of premier shark species. This location in Hawaii is very unique, as we have a large range of different shark species to see in some of the best ocean conditions found anywhere in the world. They have tiger sharks, one of the most iconic sharks in the world, second largest predatory shark in the ocean. Hawaii is famous for its tiger sharks, and here in Kona, it's one of the best places to see them anywhere in the world. Our Kona tigers are also some of the biggest found anywhere, averaging from 10 to 16 feet and well over 1,000 pounds. Oceanic white-tip shark, so again, a species that we didn't really see in that first article. I would really not be comfortable doing what this diver is, or the snorkeler is doing, by the way, because these are, again, really dangerous sharks. These are sharks that have been known to attack humans. Famously, the USS Indianapolis is attributed to oceanic white-tip sharks. Oceanic white-tips are one of the most impressive sharks in the ocean, and Kona, Hawaii is easily one of, or perhaps the best place to see them in the entire world. The members of the sharks of Hawaii are perfectly adapted to life in the open ocean and spend their time hunting down all kinds of marine life in the deep sea. Oceanics can be very bold and often come very close to our divers, making for great photographic opportunities. Galapagos sharks, which we saw. Large species found around Kona, Hawaii. Incredible predators found patrolling offshore structures. It's one of the most common sharks in Hawaii. You can see individuals up to 14 feet and 1,000 pounds. Hammerhead sharks, and we have a scalped hammerhead in this photo. Being one of the last sharks to evolve, they're very proficient and advanced in the water. And moving, it's kind of a weird sentence just because every shark is technically advanced or proficient, but anyway. Hammerheads in this area range from 6 to 12 feet. Sandbar sharks. These sharks are found in high numbers at our dive sites along with the Galapagos sharks. They're known for their speed and long dorsal and pectoral fins. Very active, not afraid to give our divers close pass after close pass. Here in Hawaii, these sharks average 5 to 7 feet. And then reef and blacktip sharks. These warm water sharks are found throughout the tropical Pacific and known for their patterns along their fins and ability to be great hunters. 4 to 8 feet. Mako sharks. So we didn't actually see Mako sharks in that first run through. Mako sharks are the fastest sharks in the ocean and expert predators. Here in Kona, they're found further offshore in the deep Pacific waters where they hunt the many tunas that live here. Hawaii is one of the only places in the world where you can see these incredible sharks in the wild. Interesting. What's also interesting that was not mentioned, white sharks. Look at that. Great white sharks are rarely seen in Hawaii, but they do spend time here, and a few are seen in the islands every year. Hawaii is also home to some of the biggest great white sharks ever seen. Some of the great white sharks spawned in Hawaii have been up to 20 feet and weighing several tons. Will you be on the boat when the next great white shows up? Great shot, by the way, of a white shark just in crystal clear water. It's stunning. So this adds quite a few characters to the Hawaiian assemblage, but again, there's this commonality of like these are large sharks that occupy a mix of either reef habitat or pelagic habitat adjacent to a coral reef. So it's a really, really unique environment. Let's see. So more diving notes. So I'm just going to skim through these. So we got Galapagos and sandbar sharks again. Galapagos shark have high concentrations of the north shore of Oahu and live in warm waters. It's an aggressive requiem shark that is dark gray on the top. Whereas sandbar sharks, chances of seeing them are very rare unless one actually takes a boat out to deeper parts of the ocean. Most visitors of Hawaii will encounter species of sharks when going out on shark feeding tour or shark cage tour. These types of sharks in Hawaii are not aggressive towards people in the water. You have hammerheads and gray reef sharks. I'm just skimming to see if there's anything new. Let's see. Because most of these are just biological facts, and a lot of them that we already know. So, okay. We already read this. We read this one. Let's see. Sharks of Oahu meet locals beneath the waves. Interesting notes here for this dive operator. So Hawaii shark encounters. So talking about tiger sharks. Tiger sharks command respect not because they're dangerous, but because they carry themselves like they know they are. Eyes are deep, calm, and surprisingly curious. Most of our guests are struck by how unafraid she seems. Interesting. Our guide often describes them as queens of the reef since they don't dart or flinch. They glide unbothered like they've seen it all before. When guests ask if tiger sharks are aggressive, we explain they're opportunistic, not reckless. Like any predator, they're curious, but curiosity isn't the same as aggression. Most of the time, they just want to see who's sharing their space. Tiger sharks are known for swimming slowly and deliberately. They don't waste energy chasing. And tiger sharks are some of the most studied sharks around the islands. Researchers from the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology and PAC-IOOS have been tagging and tracking tiger sharks for over a decade. Their data reveal that many female tiger sharks migrate from the northwestern Hawaiian Islands to the main islands, including Oahu, during the late summer and fall months, likely for pupping. Hawaii now has one of the strongest shark protection laws in the U.S. Since 2022, it is illegal to intentionally kill, capture, or harass sharks in state waters. It's a huge step for these animals, which play a key role in Hawaiian ecosystem and culture. Let's see, best time to see tiger sharks is August to November. Like this note, the tiger shark is the queen of Hawaiian waters. The Galapagos shark is her ever-present royal guard. They're the sharks our guests see the most often, sleek, strong, curious, patrolling the blue like sentinels of the sea. When you slip into a cage and look down, chances are these are the first sharks that you meet. Let's see. Galapagos sharks are often mistaken for other species, but a few details tell them apart. Tall, narrow dorsal fin, rises like a sail when they turn. Long, muscular body, built for cruising in open water, and the round snout with slightly darker gray upper body that fades to white underneath. In person, what stands out is how calm they are. They glide through the water in slow, controlled movements, often circling the cage a few times before drifting into the blue again. We sometimes see them moving in small groups, taking advantage of current lines where bait fish gather. On calmer days, they'll hang just below the cage, inspecting every detail, including you. Galapagos sharks are amongst the most consistent species we see on tours, rain or shine, morning or afternoon. Let's see. While tiger sharks tend to roam widely between islands, Galapagos sharks are homebodies by comparison. Research from the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology and other local projects shows that they often stay near certain reefs and seamounts, returning to the same areas again and again. Interesting. Galapagos sharks are protected under Hawaii state law, just like all sharks, means it's illegal to intentionally kill or capture them. They can be seen year-round. Frequent sightings off Hale'ewa's coast and the deep blue drop-offs. Notes on the sandbar shark. If Galapagos shark is a dependable regular on our tours, the sandbar shark is an elegant surprise guest. They're graceful, calm, and quietly impressive. Guests often mistake them for smaller Galapagos sharks, but look closely you'll notice something special: a tall dorsal fin that looks almost oversized for the body, slicing through the blue like a sail in the wind. Distinguishing characteristics is the tall triangular dorsal fin, which is actually the tallest among sharks relative to body size. Slow moving, unhurried, often swimming mid-water just below the cage. They're built for cruising, not aggression. Despite their size, sandbars are timid and avoid confrontation. They're a great example of how most sharks are far less aggressive than their reputation suggests. Sandbar sharks are being increasingly monitored by local researchers who study their seasonal patterns and role in the offshore ecosystems. They can be seen year-round, but most frequently in late spring and early fall. Another shark we didn't see earlier, the white-tip reef shark. This will be our last one for the night. But white-tip reef sharks. If tiger sharks are the queens of the deep and sandbars are graceful cruisers, the white-tip reef sharks are the locals who never left home. So for comparison, and we know the species, this is a very pretty famous species. It's really well known. And it's cool to add another reef species. So as far as reef sharks, we have gray reef sharks, black tip reef sharks, and white tip reef sharks for Hawaii. So there we go, white tip reef sharks. So very, very beautiful species with and completely different from the oceanic white tip. These guys are like puppies. They they gather in these huge, well, not huge, but pretty large schools, and they kind of sleep in these little crevices. They sit and pump water actively over their gills during the daytime, and then they become active hunters at night. So, and they can actually form pretty large aggregations. Really unique little sharks. It's really cool to kind of see them all, like, just imagine a shark sitting on the coral ledge, you know? Distinguishing characteristics are the white-tip fins. And the behavior, unlike most sharks, white tips don't need to keep swimming to breathe. They can relax motionless on the seafloor under coral ledges. When you see one up close, it's easy to understand why divers love them. They look calm, almost meditative, resting quietly on the bottom while the ocean moves around them. They're very small. They're one of the most peaceful sharks in Hawaiian waters and rarely show any interest in humans beyond a curious glance. During the day, you'll often find them resting in caves, sand channels, or under coral overhangs, conserving energy until the sun goes down. Fun facts, the napping shark, one of the only shark species that can stay still while resting thanks to a special way of pumping water over their gills. They're often found resting in small groups, piled up together like roommates in a reefside apartment. In local culture, white tips are sometimes associated with guardianship and balance, symbolizing the peaceful coexistence between humans and the ocean. White-tipped reef sharks are resident reef dwellers, meaning they'll spend most, if not all, of their lives in one area. Researchers studying reef systems around the Hawaiian Islands have found that white tips rarely travel far. Rather, they're loyal to their home reefs. They benefit from Hawaii shark protection laws, and because they play an important role in reef health, conservation efforts around coral ecosystems indirectly help protect them too. Oh, they have honorable mentions, dive mentions, so I'm just going to say these out loud. Barracuda, humpback whale, scalped hammerhead shark. Look at that. Juvenile hammerheads are occasionally seen in Kaneohe Bay along the deeper channels near Oahu. I think this is a good note to end on for tonight. So respect, connection, and conservation. Every day we head out from Halaiwa, we're reminded the ocean is not only a place we visit, but also a living world we share. From the curious Galapagos sharks circling below the cage to the tiger sharks gliding through deep blue water, each encounter teaches us something new about balance, patience, and respect. At Hawaii Shark Encounters, our goal has always been to help people see sharks as they truly are, intelligent, essential, and worthy of protection. The more you learn about them, the harder it becomes to see them as anything but extraordinary. Our tours aren't just about adventure, they're about education and stewardship. By diving with us, you're helping support local research, awareness, and conservation efforts to protect these species for future generations. If you'd like to learn more about conservation practices as a shark diving company, please visit our conservation page, and I'm just going to share this link in the chat if anybody is curious. Whether it's your first time stepping into the cage or your 10th, one thing never changes: the feeling of awe when you lock eyes with a shark and realize you're part of something far bigger than yourself. Come meet the locals of Oahu's Blue Frontier. We'll be here ready to introduce you. So very, very cool. So I think with that, and we'll end with, I think the tiger shark photo is a really good one to kind of sign off on. I think we'll probably say farewell in a little bit in terms of Hawaiian sharks, but because it was a lot of great information and a lot of really cool stuff to learn, not just from a scientific perspective, but from a cultural perspective. So I think tonight, I don't want my tiger shark to disappear. I think tonight we ran through a really cool assemblage, and I think my biggest surprise, and I shouldn't be surprised, but my biggest surprise was a lot of these are just classic charismatic sharks that occupy pelagic open water environment, and it makes sense because, you know, it's not like Hawaii is a very unique environment and a very unique coast where it's not like a smooth gradient into from shallow water into deep water. it's a drop-off. And because it's a drop-off, you have these reefs fringing the volcanic islands where you have the reef sharks, like the gray reef shark, the black tip reef shark, and the white tip reef shark. But you also have deep blue water immediately facing the open ocean, and in space, you've got these coastal pelagic species like sandbar sharks and tiger sharks. And then you have true pelagic species like silky sharks, the mako sharks, the oceanic white-tip sharks. And then you have species in between like white sharks and whale sharks just kind of coming into this environment. So a really cool mix, and in clear water conditions, incredible opportunities to encounter these animals. And not only just encounter them just for tourism and supporting that industry, but also, to see these sharks in a space where they're protected, and the fact that they're protected both legally and revered. I shouldn't say they're protected culturally, but like their cultural significance is a really powerful what's the word? A very powerful layer in terms of a very powerful element. There you go. Like a very powerful element in terms of maintaining the what's the word? They say balance, but like maintaining their significance in Hawaiian culture, and their presence in Hawaii in general. So legally having the protections to keep these sharks safe, culturally having that depth of connection in that they're valued on ecotourism, on can't fish for sharks in Hawaii, but like there's not a utilitarian need for them. There's something deeper and more significant. And I'm glad that we touched on a little bit of that today in terms of the cultural notes with the Hawaiian sharks. So I think as far as our regional special episodes, this was a really good one to start with. So thank you again. I think this was Howard's idea, and so thank you again for suggesting that, because it was a brilliant one, and I'm excited to continue next week with a new region, New Zealand. And I think we're going to see, I think New Zealand as a country has multiple ecoregions, so we're going to see perhaps like a variety of different kinds of sharks occupy different niches there. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching and for sharing this first episode of a regional approach to shark biology, conservation, and culture. I think this is a really cool special episode celebrating Hawaiian sharks, and I'm really glad and appreciate that you're able to join me. Thank you, Howard. Good stream. Look forward to New Zealand. Yes, so next week we're going to go, I guess not down under, but adjacent to down under. We're going to go to, I don't want to say Middle Earth, because New Zealand, of course, is known for more things than that. New Zealand actually has an amazing marine environment, so I'm excited to explore that next week. But until then, take care, and I'll see you soon. Enjoy the summer, and we'll reconvene next week at New Zealand. So, cheers. Bye.